Greatest John
Yeah, we. It's not zoomed, so it's only zoomed on the screen. It's supposed to just be, connected to your.
Well, it was in the process of closing it, and then only part of it won't close. It didn't break. It just closed. I think I was trying to. We'll get to that.
Okay, why don't we go ahead and get started? I'm getting paid $200 to finish this meeting by 7.
I upped your offer.
I'm glad Diane is.
I know they came in and offered.
He didn't stuff it, my offer, by saying that there was already an offer on the table.
That's up $100.
Oh.
I'm good.
300 now. Oh, 300 going once. All right, so all council members are present. Our Pledge of Allegiance will be led by Chief Dave Thomas and opening remarks by Councilman Stanley.
Please join me in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'll take the opportunity to give opening remarks and share an inspirational thought and answer a question I've been getting a lot of lately. People have been saying, Ben, why do you look like you haven't shaved for 2 days? The short answer is I haven't shaved for 2 days. The longer answer is that we are doing a movement of the Martin Luther companies in our ward, and so we're growing it out to look like pioneers. So the government, because of my deviation from my standard BYU honor code style of facial hair. But I'll be reenacting on level. I'm just going to laugh at Roger and these other guys. I know what they're doing. Mine will be terrible, but I understand. But I'll be portraying Levi Savage, who's one of my relatives. His story is pretty popular in media and 17 Miracles many of you may have seen. Kind of a guy known for his logical experience, but his willingness to tell. He had to apologize a lot of times, and You know, a lot of people apologize to him too. He was often right. He was often one that stuck his foot in his mouth or had to ask for forgiveness from others because of the way that he warned the things that he saw on the horizon. And I thought that maybe it was a good metaphor in the trek of the western migration of the United States for the people of Pleasant Grove, for people in our city to think about. You know, the handcart companies went through incredibly difficulties, but they also gained great spiritual insights from the suffering that they endured. And it was a metaphor for that. For us, a metaphor just in thinking a little bit about, it's important to do what's right, more important to do what's right than to be unified, but it's more important to fight than to be known as being right or being so committed to having other people see when you're right or whatever. So maybe there's something to think about there. So I'll share that how I'll get it for prayer too. Our Father in heaven, we're grateful for this day. We're grateful for the blessings that we enjoy. We're grateful for this good language that we serve. Spices that they make so much here. We're grateful for people who care in society about the suffering and the struggles of one another more than the circumstances that they face themselves. We're blessed that it's great to serve that we might know ways to lighten the burdens of others and to strengthen those that are around us and to celebrate the good and things. Pray for these blessings. Pray for thy guidance as we counsel today. Do so in the name of our Savior Jesus Christ.
Thanks, Dave. Okay, are there any changes to the agenda tonight? Scott, are you setting up your DVR?
It's already set. No, there are no changes.
Okay. All right, if not, I'll call for a motion on the agenda.
I'll make the motion that we approve the agenda as printed. I'll second it.
Motion by Cindy, second by Anna, all in favor?
Aye.
Carries. Okay, we'll have our open session now. If there's anything that's not listed as public input, a public hearing, or comment, please get up and go ahead and speak.
Lisa Coombs, 1742 East Cherokee Drive. I'm going to give a shameless plug for food trucks. They're out in force tonight. We have 8 of them out there tonight. Next week we'll have 10. We have variety, pretty much anything you can imagine, and we'd love to have your support. So head on out. Let them know you're a city worker. Some of them will give you even a good discount. Over at Water Gardens.
That's the place you're at. Anyone else? Okay, we'll close the open session, come back up here. Any comments or concerns on the consent items? I identified a couple of these, Kathy, they're good. As long as we get that there, we're good. Anyone else?
I have a question. Do you still work with the other minutes, session minutes? Is this
Okay, if there's no other comments, we'll entertain a motion. All in favor? Aye.
Before we move on, in honor of St. Patrick's Day, some of you are going to be lucky and find something underneath your seat to go look at the stuff. So, it's not random over there. I didn't want to have that.
Is that a problem?
There you go. Roger, you take both rows. You sat up front. That's what you get. So, the look, there's something underneath, and happy St. Patrick's Day. I have some Irish soda for those of you who have never tried it. You're welcome to come up and get a little piece after. It's apparently supposed to stay around. I don't know. That's just what I was told. So,
I thought today, I wonder what says that
and then I want to make the most of the talk in Irish
Okay, all in favor? On the consent
Yes. Second.
Thank you. Okay.
Aye.
Any?
No, that was something that wasn't on our agenda. And so I asked Captain to put that as number 7. So when we do have these, we have them.
Good, thank you. All right, so we're gonna move into our water report forecast. John, are you giving us a PowerPoint tonight?
Yeah, I'm totally good.
I think they can run across the street to get the one that's over there.
While we're waiting for that, maybe we could do the sewer management plan. I don't think we have to for that.
Okay, so we're gonna postpone item 8A and move to item 9A. This is to consider for adoption the resolution 2015-09, adopting the sanitary sewer system management plan and providing for an effective date. So you're presenting that, especially since Dayton's across the street. He said you're across the street.
So while we're getting that set up, I think we can go through the sewer management plan fairly quickly. I didn't think we need to go into this, but I just wanted to give you a really brief overview of what it is. And I believe you all have it in your packet. Hopefully that sense if you're interested.
I know what an FOB is now.
The last time. We got some problems here.
All right,
Jones?
Yes.
Can you use that microphone there, Rachel?
Yes. The state of Utah has implemented a program or a permit program where all of these in the state who operate sewer collection systems, sewer treatment plants like Timpanogos, but anybody who operates a sewer collection system, pipes and manholes and so forth, has to have a sewer treatment plan. And you have to get a permit from the state to be able to operate this. So that's part of the system. This is very similar, and I think it's probably modeled after the stormwater management plan that we've reviewed several times in the past. In the case of the sewer management plan, it's not near as drastic and tough on the city as maybe the stormwater management plan is. Basically, what we've done is we've looked at the requirements in the permit, and we've basically written down Public Works Department is already doing. And what they're doing is our requirements of the permit for the most part. The plan includes a number one, organizational info, authority, operation and maintenance plan, design and performance criteria, a sewer overflow response plan. What do you do if there is a backup in sewer overflow? Fats, oil, and grease plan, or the fog plan. Okay. How do we deal with fats, oils, and grease when they get down into the system and plug it up? Exactly right. And then lastly is a system evaluation and capacity assessment plan. This is basically your master plan. And so the city has really been doing all part in the sewer management plan. We just now pulled it all together in a written plan. The last one, the system evaluation or the master plan, we've not finalized that one. We're not required to finalize it until March of next year. So we'll finalize that one over the coming year. Also, there's only one thing that I think that we need to add to the ordinance, and that's one of the items on the agenda tonight is actually adopting an ordinance. And basically the one thing was we need to require whoever builds a sewer, adds to the sewer system, and the city itself has to follow the state regulations and design criteria for sewer collection systems. So we added that specifically. And that's all I've really had on the sewer management plan, unless you've got questions I can address specifically.
I'm sorry, I'll ask you questions.
So will the error on the bookmark thing be corrected before we error on this? 3.5.3. Huh? The page number. There's a error on 3.5.3. It should have a page number. And it, yeah, and the table of contents. Okay. And it does look like it's by itself, so, well, it's kind of by itself. Okay, I will fix that, yes.
It appears we're in the third year of our fifth. permit.
That's correct.
So this has to be done yearly update or what's?
You bet. The statute or the statute from the state says we have to have an updated plan every 5 years. In this initial implementation of the plan, it started 3 years ago. We submitted a notice of intent to develop and adopt this sewer management plan. The date of the adoption, the first deadline, I should say, the first deadline is March here to do this portion of the plan. So yes, the permit's been in effect for 3 years. We'll finish the next portion of it next year. And then the 5th year, we'll need to come back with a full update. And they will update the permit as well. And they will tell us if there's additional things we need to do with that 5-year update.
One of the goals is to clean the system fully every 1 to 2 years.
And Greg can probably do that better, but yes, the contract that the city has with Timpanogos Special Service District is for them to come and to jet all the lines and clean them as necessary. They do both jetting, which is to go with the high pressure water jet in the lines and kind of clean out everything that's in there. And the other thing they do is closed circuit TV inspection. Now, they're not able to get it. They can do a lot of the jetting and cleaning, and they probably do that within 2 years. 2 years. TV inspection takes a little bit longer. They're working on that. Yes.
My understanding, we get that service from them
That's correct.
regardless of how we use it.
That's correct.
So I wouldn't just say
And
that's it. You do.
Plus, at least we tried.
we try and use it as much as possible. All of the cities that contribute to TSSD have, based on their flow and their percentage of the total flow, get a number of days per year where they come and work in that city.
Who specifies which sewers they're investigating, which lines?
Greg
does. You do, Greg? Because I've seen like multiple where people are leaders, and then I also see them in different places. Down there, they seem to be there like quarterly.
No problem there, really. So basically, when we're the lift station pumps pastures, we just want to make sure that's cleaned out in case they won't have any problems or anything. So some areas will get it more than others.
Greg keeps track of areas that could be problem areas, and they try and go and address those on a more regular basis so they don't become problems.
The other question I had was regarding training of reserve staff. That has to be done annually.
That depends on which training. Was it to be certified in the sewer or?
There's various levels.
Yeah, there's every
Yeah.
section.
Yeah. And we do that every year, all year, so.
The Rural Water Association also has training. They have training for drinking water specifically, but they also have a lot of training that the staff goes through regularly.
Last question I had is regarding, I saw this as DEP also does inspection. Grease oil traps. Do they inspect those, each one of them annually or is it scheduled?
So, yeah, they usually go through and test them. There's a lot of them that they get that are kind of more common to the breed, or 6 more for the restaurant or something. They'll actually check in more often, you know, kind of make sure they remind the owner that, hey, it's starting to back, you know, get to the point where it might back up. So they get them a few more times than they would normally.
Whose responsibility is to maintain those cities?
It's usually the business.
And Timpanogos does run that program, the grease trap program. Yes.
We kind of go off their spec for the grease traps too, so we'll kind of follow their rule on that, where they kind of run the program.
When a building permit comes in, they have to go, and they're a business that might need this, they have to go to Timpanogos to get a sign off. Timpanogos will tell them if they need a water separator or not, or grease trap. And then they'll have to follow their rules and testing.
They got the same code, so we kind of adopted their code.
Yes, on that, regarding the financing of that, is that paid for by user fees or by usage? So they're separate.
Inspection?
That service provided by TSS.
It's built in the contract of the, yes.
You mentioned at the beginning that there was an ordinance that we needed to adopt. Is that the one on tonight's agenda?
That's correct.
Any other questions?
Excellent, thank you, Jay.
Okay. Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion to adopt resolution 2015-09, adopting the sanitary sewer system management plan and providing for an effective date.
Okay, we have a motion by Sid, second by Jay, by voice, Ben.
Yes.
Jay.
Yes.
Sid.
Yes.
Cindy.
Yes.
Pam. Motion carries. Thanks, Jay. John. Thanks, Jay.
Thanks, Jay and John.
Okay, so we'll back up now to item 8A, which is our presentation on our 2015 water supply.
While we're ready, I just wanted to ask this young lady back here, what are you filming for?
I'm from BYU. I'm a reporter for 11 News.
Oh, okay.
We've seen several. Are you the same one that comes every time?
I came like last month, I think.
Okay.
Every semester you'll get a new person covering for the conference.
Is there a specific one being covered, or just look at the agenda, or
I look at the agendas from all of the city.
or tell ours?
Way more attentive where they are.
Is this a good email?
Yeah.
Let me know if it's easier.
Oh,
I don't think I have. She was in top, by the way. I don't know if it's, I don't know if they do that. We'll try. I can play in almost.
She looks great. That's like that.
I don't.
Again, there's a way to lower the front foot. Yeah, so
That works.
There's a little lever on the right.
All right, as yearly, we come, I've been asked a presentation on the water supply outlook for the year, in the spring of the year. And I prepared our presentation for tonight, and looked at the water supply, or lack of water supply in this case, and our presentation for tonight. I wanted to start off with first kind of a comparison in the last few years of how we've done in our water use. This is total water use for the irrigation system through the last year. In a good water year with the water shares that we have available, we should have about 7,200 acre feet available to us. In 2012, we used about 5,900 acre feet, 2013, about 56, 2014, about 5,300 acre feet. And this gives you the percentage less than 2000. This particular graph of 2014 The dark black line is how much we used in 2013. The green is how much we used in 2014. And just for reference, this gray area is the state recommended usage. The state tells us how much we ought to be using on our ground, and that is the lower amount. So we're using quite a bit more than the state recommended values. And I think we understand that and recognize that. And this is also a slide from last year where we talked about, yes, go ahead.
It says water supply, is that both culinary and secondary or just secondary?
Just secondary. I'm addressing just secondary tonight. We can address culinary if we would like to. Chris.
When you say 70 available on a good year.
A good year means if we've got good snow supply up in the mountains and a good full allotment in Deer Creek Reservoir, Provo River, that's how much our shares should yield to us. But in a bad year when we don't have the snowpack and the Provo River flows are down, then we don't have it all available.
That all available.
We don't have 7,200 feet acre.
But you don't know what that is, because you don't know.
We don't. I'm making estimates for this upcoming on what we do have available. This particular page talks about how much we used to use before the secondary system was in place. We used to use about 2.5 to 3 gallons per minute per acre of ground that we irrigated. That was all got our water out of the culinary system. Division of Drinking Water Standard. If you take your water out of a drinking water system, they tell you you need to design for 0.39 gallons per minute per acre. And our design standard for the irrigation system, when it was designed, it was based on using 4 gallons per minute per irrigated acre. In 2018, our peak day usage was 7.7 gallons per minute. Now, this was less than in 2012, and in 2014, we were, 7.4 per acre. And so we're using quite a bit more than we were before, and more than the system was designed to handle. And we've talked about this extensively last year. It's going to take about 48% conservation to get back to design usage. And with that, I was asked to put together a quick graph that compares these graphically. And this upper line is how much we're actually using in the city of Pleasant Grove right now. Anywhere between a little 8 gallons per minute per irrigated acre down to about 7.5. The state design guideline for the green system was designed to handle about 4 gallons per minute. At this point, I want to highlight that there's 2 different quantities we're talking about here. Our first graph talked about a volume of water. Our volume of water, our total volume we've used over the summer has been going down over the last couple of years. This is the peak day, the worst day in the summer. What is our maximum flow we're using? In other words, how much gallons per minute per acre? So we have to be able to control for those situations. We need to have enough water volume total, but we also have to have the capacity in the pipes to pass this flow rate. And if our pipes are too small, we don't pass the flow rate very well, and we get complaints from users saying the system isn't working very well. Any questions? I'd like to go into projections here real quick on talk about our hydrologic outlook, our sources of supply, and conservation discussion. And we're going to go kind of a good news, bad news scenario. We'll cover the bad news first, and then hopefully the good news last. And just briefly, we'll cover these pretty quickly. This is the drought monitor. We're still in pretty heavy drought right now. And the only thing I can say good about this is at least we're not in California and Nevada, which is much, much worse. This is a graph of the snowpack and the available water in the snowpack as of last week. And the area right here in Utah, and you can't see the numbers very well, but that's all around 60% of average. And that's pretty similar to the last 3 years. Now, like I said, at least we're not Oregon and Washington and California, which is down around 20 or less percent. This third page, there's a lot of information there and you can't really read it anyway, but this is a report from the Provo River Water Users Association. And I track this on a weekly basis to see how much water is available and so forth, and it's very good information for me. But they tell us the same thing. The basins are 60% of average right now. This particular graph is our Timpanogos, Timpanogos Divide up American Fork Canyon. They have a elevation or a snowtail side that measures the amount of snow up there all winter long. And the amount of water in the snow on an average year is this blue line. Here, we're way down here, 60%. Now, I put on the last 3 years just for comparison's sake, and if you'll notice, they're all very similar over the past 4 years. We have very similar water conditions to the past several years. And I did the same thing with another snowtail site. This is the Snowbird site up on Snowbird Ski. And this is the major source of supply for American Fork River. And we get quite a bit of water from American Fork River. But you can see it's also it's probably 70%. But all 3 years, the previous years, have all been fairly similar. So we have really tight water supplies this year again. This particular graph shows the water that comes out of American Fork Canyon during the irrigation season. And if you'll notice over here on the far right, 2 years ago in 2013, we fourth lowest water yield on record. This is about 100 years, not quite, but close. And the fourth lowest yield out of American Fork Canyon. Last year was the 8th lowest. The year before was, same type of area. And this year is looking just as bad, or it's just very dry out there. We don't have any storms on the horizon. So things are really tight. This is the bad news. I want to go into our estimates of our sources of supply. The good news is the work that we've done over the last couple of years with conservation, renting water from outside sources, and last year we had a little bit of good weather. Those three things combined have allowed us to save some water to apply to this year. And I'll go over that just briefly here. CUP, we can get 620 acre feet from that. Been pretty solid. Total reservoir water euphony, I'm estimating we're going to get 380 some acre feet from them. And most of my estimates are based on 2 years. That was the worst year. I'm basing most of my estimates on that. Provo River Water Users Association, this is water out of Deer Creek Reservoir. It's storage water. I'm estimating we've got about 2,200 acres. And that's because we were able to save over the past couple of years 1,500 acre feet in the reservoir. And then North Union Canal Company, I'm estimating we're going to get about 1,400 acre feet from that particular source.
Question.
Yes.
Is the 29 holdover, does that include what we leased from Warren, or did we use the lease from Warren and save our own water?
That's correct. We used the lease from Warren while we were paying for it, and then we saved our own water for this year. I would also like to mention that this is assuming 50% allotment. What this means is the Provo River Water Users Association, depending on the runoff, will give all their users a allotment every year. If they've got good water supply, they get 100% allotment. If they got poor, it'll be something less. Right now, they're actually looking at about 25% allotment. but we haven't had any runoff yet either. I'm hoping we get a little bit and that bumps up.
Is,
But
is
go ahead.
is the water still available?
It is available. Yes. So our
What's
next,
been our allotment for the last 2 years?
was about 64,
67.
67, and the year before that was about 63, I believe.
Yes, that's correct.
The year before that was actually a full allotment. Even though it was a dry year, we had come off a really wet year before, had plenty of storage in the reservoir then. So 63, 67% allotment. I'm estimating a 50% allotment this year. I think we'll get there. The next sources of supply we have Battle Creek, about 500 acre feet. We had, about 600-700 acre feet from Battle Creek last year, and about 500 the year before. So that's how I'm estimating that. Grove Creek, similar. We had well over 100 acre feet last year, but only about 38 the year before. American Fork River, we had more last year, but I went off the numbers from 2 years ago. And then obviously wells, we do have the ability to pump out of wells, and we can supplement from culinary if we need to.
Does the 783 include the 443?
That's correct, yes. So in total, I am estimating we're about 6,500 acre feet of water available this year. And we need, if you remember our usage from the first graph, anywhere from 500 to 6,000. Now you might look at that and say, oh, we've got plenty of water. Well, I want to caution us to say that the reason we have the water we have now is because of all our efforts over the past couple of years. We can't relax from those efforts, or we'll be using more than 6,000 acres. We have the ability to save this culinary water in the ground if we can use the water from. I recommend that. If we cannot pump water from our culinary wells to supplement the irrigation, let's do it. Let's use all of our secondary sources first. And then we've got about 6,000 acre feet there. And if things go well and we conserve and do what we should be doing, we may have some money or some water to save for next year in case we have another bad year. So I'm recommending not let off on our conservation efforts at this point.
What was usage again? Total usage?
Usage last year was 5,300. Yes.
But we got up to when we were.
3 years ago, it was 59.
So John, when we got the rain in September, I mean, that was part of the reason we were able to save water, but was that also part of the reason that maybe we used 5,300?
Yes.
I mean, we just had a weather pattern that was really beneficial.
It started raining in the afternoons on July 9th.
It's very fortunate. And we were able to save quite a bit by that favorable weather pattern. And that,
What date they determine the percentage allotments that will receive?
good question.
September.
They try and tell us, what is it? On their final, they try and by June 1st what their
Yeah.
allotment is.
Yeah.
But if it changes during the year, if they have more or less, then they have to adjust it. And they actually adjusted last year right up into September. They adjusted it up because of all the rain that last summer. Okay, just a couple of wild cards to throw in here that may have. I'm sorry. This is good. I just want to mention just some wild cards. If our wells go down, we have less than 50% allotment from Provo River. If we spillage out of Deer Creek Reservoir, weather patterns, conservation, all these different things bump up or down, the amount of water we use and the amount of water we have. So these are all estimates. I feel pretty good about it based on how we've done the last couple of years, but there's always things that can happen.
So the good news, and I don't know if you're getting to this, but we're not going to have to rent water from Orem.
Oh,
So that's the good news.
That's good news.
With our, that we don't need to go to that. I don't know if that was your next slide or.
No, that's great. Appreciate that. But no,
Way to go. This whole time.
I just wanted to.
John's only good news.
I just wanted to get that out before we got too far down the road.
So another thing though, I mean, we did serve, and we're in a situation now for the efforts of all the citizens in the community. I think we've really made a great effort in doing that, and need to commend the citizenry for taking it serious and really helping in that path. You know, I don't think we should let down by any means, but I think we should commend them for helping with that effort.
And I think we
Maybe
need,
some more than others.
and I think we need to talk about that too, in just a minute, how, what we want to do again this year on
Right.
conservation.
I'd be interested to know what other cities are going beyond. John, do you work with other cities and such as far as their water supplies? Not that I want to know that, but really what did we learn, maybe others as far as doing other things?
You bet. So
Because I'm really big on water conservation. You know, living in Australia and such, and just seeing the realities that we could face if we don't really buckle down, we're going to have some real issues.
a couple of things that I've seen, actually, the cities that I work with have similar conservation efforts.
As far as enforcement,
Enforcement, and actually you've done more on enforcement than most of the cities I work with. 2 years ago, you were very heavy on enforcement. The other cities have enacted some restrictions, but haven't had the people or money to go out and enforce a lot of tickets. It's been mostly, okay, somebody complains about their neighbor, well, they'll go have to address it. They don't have somebody out actively looking and issuing citations. But most of them do similar things. They send out flyers and do some public education and other things like that, watering schedules, letting them know how much water they've used to date and where they should be and that kind of thing. I've noted all of that. But I think that we've mentioned this before. I think the real solution to the full savings that we really need to get to is metering secondary water. And when we meter it, and people know exactly how much they use, when they know if their system is leaking or not, and they can fix it, those kind of things will really help the conservation effort. All of the public education and all the things that we're doing are great. They help everybody and educate people. But when it comes right down to the amount of conservation that we need to get to our goals, I think we need to have metering.
I have a question. Okay, back to you. That number right there, based upon your projections, what will that number be next year?
Okay, it all depends on where we end up this year. We end up
Based
with
upon your projections.
projections. If we use 6,000 acre feet and we don't use any culinary, we won't have any storage left over for next year. No cushion. If we use 5,300 acre feet like last year, we will have 700 acre feet of cushion and storage. Okay, let me bring up one other issue here. Deer Creek Reservoir, if you drive up there and look at it, it looks almost full. How can it be full and we be in such a low water year? The Deer Creek Reservoir is sized for 100,000 acre feet of water for a full allotment. I mean, they could store a little bit more in there, but full allotment is 100,000 acre feet. They have 104,000 acre feet of holdover water from years past. Full because everybody saved a whole bunch of water. It's not because they've got the runoff of the water. It's because everybody, okay? So while I really applaud the effort to conserve water, if we put too much in the reservoir, then there's a chance that the reservoir fills up and spills, And then you lose some of your holdover water. Now, I've done an estimate on this 1,500 acre feet, and if the reservoir spills, if it fills up quite a bit, there's a process that we go through. Which water spills first, whose water is going first, and so forth. And I'm estimating that we'll lose very little water in spillage at 50% alone. There's enough other people in the storage that have large chunks of water that make it so that they'll spill first before we do. So I think it'd be prudent and wise to have additional storage or to have holdover water. But I don't want to just add to this because we take a chance of losing it all next year. So if we decide, and I think it's a great topic for discussion, if we decide to go ahead and rent some water from Warren this year and save the water, we can do. I think we just need to recognize the pros and cons of it.
Did our holdover water come from a couple of years ago when we bought this from the Conservancy? Is that right?
The Conservancy District and Orem water used it all. We couldn't hold over any of that.
Oh, okay.
We were able to save our own water.
Some of our own water because we were using that one.
The last year it was 1,000 acre feet from Orem. The year before it was 1,000 acre feet from Orem plus 1,300 acre feet from Central Utah.
So John, what are the recommendations?
Water restrictions, I recommend that we continue the same restrictions, same scheduling, same enforcement that we have done the last couple of years. I think that we can continue on with those and do similar to what we did before. Renting water, I don't think we need to rent water. Now, if you choose to rent some water, I would maybe rent a 500 acre feet versus the full 1,000. Use the 5 acre feet and hopefully save a little bit for next year. But I don't think we have to. And I think going forward, if we continue to use water wisely the way we have been, that we may not need to rent going forward, even if we have bad years, because we're continuing to obtain more water shares and get more water into our portfolio, I guess you could say, allow us to weather those dry years on our own without. So renting water, we can. If we choose to, I say we limit it.
And then also increase, I mean, you talk about the increase, but our users increase too.
They do, and that's a good point. When Wisconsin turns in water, they turn in enough water for both their indoor and their outdoor. Okay. Now, when we switched over from a culinary system to a secondary system, now we've got some excess culinary water that all of these new people can use. And so when they turn in their water, they turn in enough for both their culinary and secondary, but they only use their secondary. In other words, that portion that they would have used for culinary, this to be put in extra in the secondary system. Does that make sense, or can I explain it a little bit better? Okay.
Is there a timing on when to buy the water? I mean, can you wait?
We need to make a decision tomorrow.
Very
Oh,
quickly,
why is that?
because somebody else will want to run it.
Is the price the same as last year?
That
Price should be good, as it was last year. They raised it last year.
Is it going up each year?
They went up last year.
I think Lynn got a screening deal a few years ago that they realized, oh, we have to make a little bit more money.
We got these pumps. We went up in price.
I think we probably paid more market value last year, not so much 2 years ago.
So a different kind of a question. You talked about allotments and sources of supply, but on the other hand, some of this is dependent upon the capacity of the reservoirs and the amount of snow that's coming down. So it seems like even though people own shares, there's going to come a point it is needed. So no matter what you have over here, there isn't anything to give. Where are we with this?
Great. CUP number is supposed to be pretty solid. Now, I suspect that in extreme drought, worse than we are now, they may have to cut back on that. I haven't heard any word about that. Lately.
What's their source? What's the CP?
It's also Provo River water, but it's Jordan Hill Reservoir. That's where they store it. Provo Reservoir Water Users Company, they have a lot of flow rights. In other words, the flow that or snow melt in the summer, and we get a portion of that particular flow. If it's a really bad year and we don't get any rain or snow from here on out, those flows could drop, and that number could drop. But these numbers again are based on 2 years ago where we did have a pretty dry. The Provo River water users, on the other hand, is all storage of water. And the reservoir up there is full from past years. So we have all of this available, and we get more and more of this, the more allotment we have. So, and North Union, I want to mention North Union. North Union is becoming one of the better sources of supply we have. Because North Union is part of the Full Bench Irrigation Company. They have right to the first 75 cubic feet per second coming down Provo River. They're right at the head of the line. They've got the first rights to anything. Provo River, Provo Reservoir, everybody comes to North Union. So that 1,400 acre feet is pretty darn secure. It has to get really bad for the river not to supply the 75. All these local sources, Grove Creek, Battle Creek, and American Fork River, these are all very low compared to what we should be getting out of it. There's no storage reservoirs up there, and you get what you get. We had the 4th lowest yield on American Fork River 2 years ago, and that's what these numbers represent. So those could go down, but just how much can they go down? I'm estimating they're not going to go down a whole lot more than that. I could be off, but that amount of water is not the largest portion of our total. So, I am thinking, or I'm recommending that we've got the water that we need, and it can always go down, it can always get worse. And what do we do if we run out of water? We run out of water. We don't water our lawns. At least we'll have drinking water. Does that answer your question?
Sort of. The state, whatever his name is, I can't remember the title, but there was a time a few years ago where they were proving up water shares and kind of eliminating those that weren't real water shares. And then there was discussion about age of water shares, like the older your water shares, the more secure you were that you get your water before somebody else. And the statement from the state was we're oversubscribed as to the quantity of water that actually versus how many shares people have. So my question is kind of like at a point where our shares are so old, particularly North Union, where if after all that settles out, we're still first in line, even in a bad year. And maybe that's.
Let me tell you which ones we're first in line on this list. Battle Creek and American Fork River, we're first in line on. That's surface sources, and the water rights that are owned are the primary rights. They are the first rights there.
So we get the first water out of American.
You split it between the 3 irrigation companies, but yes. And American Fork, Lehigh, and Pleasant Grove, they all split it, but they are the primary water right holders out of American Fork River. The North Union is a primary one. That's the premier one on the Provo River. And so they get the first shot at the water. Provo River is interesting because they are not the primary water right holder, but they've held everything over in storage. And so that storage is theirs. That's available right now. Now in the future, if there's no runoff and everybody uses their holdover, the reservoir is empty, they don't have anything to do. So Provo Reservoir is a more junior. CUP is also a more junior. But with the reservoir up there, it's also storage water. If you got it, it's available. If you don't, it's not. So I think we're sitting in a pretty good location with your secondary supplies. You've got some really good high priority rights and shares. We could go into a large discussion about culinary water rights and priority and aquifers and all that stuff as well, but I don't think we want to get into that.
Just really question, very smart, I'm sure, but, what feeds the wells?
Excellent. It's groundwater, and your groundwater is recharged from rain, snow on the surface, but it's also recharged from the mountain. The water soaks in the rocks in the mountain, comes down, and feeds back up into the aqua. So,
And how are the wells right now?
okay, that's a really good question. Our water levels are dropping significantly. They're not at all-time lows, but they're getting close. Getting there this year. We have several wells, 2 or 3 wells that we're not pumping right now because the water levels are so low. We just can't get the water out, and it causes problems if we're sucking air and other things. But we have several other sources of wells, several other wells that are really good shape and supply all that you need. So culinary wise, we're in really good shape right now. As the water levels drop, then it becomes more and more of a problem. As you grow and need more culinary water, then that could become a more and more of a problem. But as of right now, we're doing really good on culinary.
When what's the scheduled date for secondary water to come on?
May 1st. Takes us 2 weeks to fill it up. We don't get water out of it. We'll have to get water out of it after that this year to fill because of all water supply coming off the mountain. Takes us 2 weeks to fill it. We get it. We'll be after that on the 15th of May.
So if we were following the state's guidelines, if we hit it, our citizens nailed it, how many acre feet would we need from our sources every year?
And I don't know the exact number, but just thinking back to that draft, it's about 4,000 acre feet.
So that's
4,500.
about 7 acre feet more than the solid ones that you showed us.
Roughly.
I think the long-term issue that we eventually will need to address is getting this down to 4 gallons per minute. Not yet.
Or less.
Or less.
Again, go back to that number when we were on the culinary. The 4 was, this should be a system that meets your needs and has some buffers, some really bad weather days. And we don't want to be at a usage that puts us right at system capacity all the time. We want some buffer.
So if we could get from 7 point whatever it is down to the 4, that takes down where the state's recommended.
Actually, it takes us lower.
So then we should be able to make it with the solid sources.
So our water supply.
Our water supply
needs
should
to really put us in- we don't have to solve that one tonight, but that is probably a long-term discussion.
especially type water.
Sure, yes.
So we've talked about water restrictions, renting water. We don't need to, but you can. Water surcharge. We had a water surcharge last year on the bills. We pay for the rental water. If you don't rent water, you don't need the water surcharge. If you do, you might want to keep it. Public education. I just wanted to mention that the Dion Giles and the beautification committee is really kind of on board with water conservation, and they're going to be helping the public works out with public education materials and so forth. I'll continue my tracking of water use and giving the information to them so that they can include it in any education materials throughout the summer. Enforcement, I think it's up to you if you want to hire the people to go out and look and issue citations again, or if you want to people to do it on their own until forced to do otherwise. That's up to you.
In my opinion, enforcement is really the key goes. You know, we do thousands of the warnings with the door hangers, and we do pay people to go out and do that. Our regular staff doesn't have time to do that. So I think that's been the key in seeing this number reduce each year is enforcement. I would hope that we consider, keep that program.
We've seen a lot of residual benefit. I mean, it seems like after a few years of doing that, people get the message and maybe we can reduce the amount and still keep that program in place, but not have it as frequent or.
Yeah, potentially. I mean, we've been doing it for 2 years. And so you've seen the reduction now, whether that's all because of enforcement or whether because we had a good weather pattern last year, it's kind of hard to say exactly. But when we did start the enforcement, which was, I want to say it was like May 15th or whatever in 2013, you could see our use actually take a dive right at that point. And so that was telling us that the enforcement did have a certain effect. And so if we need to, I just recommend we keep doing it. We just keep everything in place. And again, the door hangers with the warnings are really the key. Once people that, a vast majority of people, change their clocks, get it how they need to be, and we're good to go. So I just think we need to keep that up.
Are we gonna take any action on that?
I think we need to decide tonight is whether we want to buy Renta or on water.
Well, based on the recommendation John gave us, if we do, there's no guarantee we're gonna be able to keep all that water, the stuff that we're saving.
And that's why I recommend maybe not a full factor fee, something lower. We can use that, and make sure we use that, and then we can spout that much for next year. I don't want to do the full amount because I think we'll be saving too much in the land.
So do you think we'll end up with 2,000 or we'll use some of that 1,500 also?
We would use some of the 1,500. I recommend we use some of the 1,500 this year.
So what do you guys think?
So we know the cost of it? And we've got, wasn't it like?
It was $100,000.
How much?
100,000.
Was that the year before?
The year before, I think we paid 50.
Well,
And so, and our surcharge was $1.25.
If the amount this year, if we're trying to rent half the water, I think that's what we're trying to do, right?
Yeah. Potentially.
What would be the charge for this year?
I think that would just chop in half.
Yeah. Roughly half.
65.
Well, I think John's original recommendation, we don't need to rent water, right? And there's part of me that would love to end the water surcharge. And we don't need to rent the water because we're in a better position. We do have the reserves at this time. I'd be inclined to be a voice for not renting at all.
Thinking of when you wean someone off cocaine, so they don't die.
Water is more addictive than cocaine.
I think water is a more addictive substance, so if we could kind of wean it down.
Yeah, I want to be safe and sorry. So yeah, I agree that. I mean, it's kind of what you're finding is last year kind of at full board, this year it's nothing kind of in between that. We're in a little bit of a position, we're a little bit safe, price in half for the user, that surcharge, but we just don't know what's gonna happen this year because that's an unknown. I think I agree, it's quite a few of us. Sorry. And I don't think that we're being proactive, that we're actively,
I think we can go without renting. I think we need to really do kind of a publicity blitz a little bit on this and tell citizens how well we've done. We need to keep it up. Because of that, we're not renting this year, and the importance of that, and really let that word get back to people. And I think, yeah, this is positive because of what you did the last couple of years. We're not having to rent. And I think that's a way to probably motivate more people to participate in conservation. And they have 2 flush toilets on sale at Costco. So, And also, yep, two flush.
One you
That
have to
is
flush
really
twice.
good. Right, so $89, so if we can, give everybody a discount, they can buy two flushes.
That's culinary.
And
secondary.
I had to get in the two flush toilet.
So, question for you. So let's say this year is much warmer drought than last year and people actually use more because they don't want things to die. So is that gonna tap into, what if we don't rent and that, is that?
Yes, if I'll go back to these numbers real quick.
What's the worst case scenario if we don't rent any water?
I think what John was.
And once it's gone, we have to decide by a certain date that there's no more, I mean, no, tomorrow, it's literally tomorrow.
Yeah, because I didn't pick out.
If we don't take it from that.
I am estimating that we need 500, 6,400 acre feet. Last year we used 5,300. 2 years ago we used 5,900. So we could use 59, we could use 6,000, we could use a whole bunch more, and I think we'll still have this available. Now, if the drought gets worse and worse and worse, then maybe we don't have 6,400.
We don't get the monsoon afternoons.
Exactly. So it's kind of hard to judge.
That includes the 1,500 of
That-
savings.
Yes, I include 1,500 savings. So
And obviously, if we decide that we want to do it.
Well, and not be
Gone.
available.
It'll likely be gone.
If it's available.
So it's absolutely not available, it's not that they want to get it resolved.
And so that was an obvious question when I said, what's gonna happen when it, but I was referring to if, that's what I mean, like in a month, can we get it, in August, can we get it, it's either now or we take it now or we don't take it, we can do the whole summer and hope that everything goes well.
It's likely somebody else is gonna rent.
Somebody else will rent it if we don't.
We have an agreement with
There's
them.
become a bidding war.
Do they have first dogs or something?
Kind of, yeah, they're kind of saying, we had to deal with you last year. Do you
We
want,
have to deal with.
do you want to continue? We're recognizing that we have a relationship, you want to continue that. We say no, they'll go and ask if there's anybody else who wants to run it.
Large cocaine user. Actually, it's for my daughter, that's no, the thought terrifies me. We started raining in July and we rained almost every afternoon or every other afternoon. I think it's fair to not cushion a little bit. So if we do half load, we can drop the surcharge by half and still protect ourselves from the spillage. Am I understanding that right?
I think so.
Yeah, I think the only counterpoint is that this has a lot of cushion built in, right? I mean, we're talking about 6,400, where we'll probably need 53, maybe as much as 6,000.
But we're also dealing with people who were using 2.2 when they were paying for culinary water to put on their lawns, and now they're using 7.7. With all the efforts that we've put in education and enforcement, we dropped down to 7.3. This is not, we are refusing to water less.
Well, I mean, I already got a call from us that said, does it turn on when my lawn's gonna die and it's mid-March? I just don't think people understand, and so.
The lawns are like this right
Yeah, so, I mean, this is mid-March, so, yeah, I agree with Anna. That if, we're going to, I just think it would be better with a little bit of a cushion. I see watering more when it's more of a drought because they're afraid that things are gonna, I don't know. I don't even know when to panic.
What are your thoughts?
Well, I don't want to rent water, but like Diana said, the only thing they saved us last summer was the water we got like greater usage if we went back. In other words, 2013, 2014 would have been worse than 2013, in my opinion, if we wouldn't have got that.
Oh, yeah.
Very good possibility, yes.
Actually, I think
more in the beginning of the year, more at the beginning of the summer, and then that's when it starts raining.
So, I mean, I think it'd be prudent.
I know, it's just a fear
To
factor.
rent, but maybe our citizens need a wake-up call. We run out of water. So I'm kind of seeing both sides, but I don't want to put them in that position.
I think if we can send out the good information that they have been able to save, it's gone down X amount of gallons, and this year is so much less water right now. We know it already, they can see it.
Yeah.
And we're going to rent half as much water as we did last year. I think that's a wake-up call. I mean, at least I would take it as a wake-up call. Even if I were one of the abusers, I would take it as a wake-up call. And I'd recommend including the door hanger. They get some of this data along stapled with it that says this isn't, we're not trying to pry, whatever you call that word, a bull. You can't run out of water.
Also, the effect, I don't know, is do we need to keep bailing out the citizens? Do you know what I'm saying? Do we have to keep, I don't know how this is coming across, but
That's why I said I'm one of the users.
do we
I'm a tenant.
Well,
keep,
part
do
of
we
the
just
problem
keep
is
providing
that
the water so they don't have to?
we're all playing a flat rate for the additional water.
Right. Whatever the top of the meter.
So to answer your question, I might change the terminology a little.
Yeah.
I might say, in looking after all of the citizens' best interest, it's in their best interest to conserve water. It's in their best interest to not run out. So by taking this conservative approach, we're not going to rent as much. But that means we're automatically saying there's not going to be as much water as last year. Your lawns survive. And you turn it down a little. You're using at least 2.5 times the water we were using a few years ago.
When you were paying per gallon.
Right?
To me, it feels like, and this is probably more just a political statement, but if we were to run out of water, the consequences for the city would be worse than having a little bit too much water. I mean, and I think this idea that, our residents need to learn that we need to conserve, but I think that'd be a real bad situation if we actually physically ran out of water.
Not happening in California, Southern California. And we've gone down there, it doesn't look very good.
Yeah.
It's not a good situation.
I think this room fills up really quickly with people that are very angry.
And at that point, there's nothing we can do, because there is no water.
But I guess this goes to the surcharge. If we have an opportunity to have a $50,000 insurance policy for this water, that might be something we want to consider just to prevent against the worst case of running out of water.
So back to the cocaine example, I still think that we wean slowly, right?
Yeah.
We wean everybody down until we're all using what we should be using. Cold turkey probably isn't gonna. So anyway, unless someone's changing their mind, it looks like there's 3 people in favor of a form of conservation and, 3 people in favor of renting half the water, and 2 people that would prefer rent.
Well, I would, in further discussion, I feel like what Scott's brought up is that we do have a responsibility to the citizens. So, I understand, I wish it wasn't so.
Sure.
But I do feel that responsibility as council members that we do, if there's a edit, then we need to, but we can't shirk the responsibility that we have in enforcing the constitution.
And I think we keep those efforts up, and I like the idea that we do have maybe a flyer that goes out with the door hanger that talks about this is the success we've had through conservation, but it doesn't mean all of a sudden we use whatever we want. We still have to stay on top of this, because in some ways our end goal is to get to this 4 gallons per minute. And if we could do that without metering, that would save us millions of dollars as a community.
Right.
I don't know if we could ever get there, but that would be kind of the ultimate goal if we could reach that.
You know, also, Deanna, would the beautification come in and present to us what they're kind of doing? I would like to be really involved in where we're going with this, what we're telling, you know, how we're presenting. So maybe from them, they could come in and let us know would that be all right to do some type of presentation one night?
Yeah, they're really close. They had a final draft at our last meeting last week. Seen it, they were gonna email me that, and I was gonna pass it along, and then they would like to come in and do a presentation on what they plan on doing.
Do we need to, maybe have an in-service of some sort to let citizens come in and listen to how to conserve?
No.
Let's have a
Video.
night of.
Remember last year,
Yeah.
the video with,
At the
Mike? I think the follow-up video on this subject would be.
And you could do some of the beautification committee.
Or even have an evening that, or a in-service, some afternoon.
Yeah, we'll be in
Okay, and
camera.
one thing more on the hangar. I heard something from Rocky Mountain Power that just makes me crazy, but it says, this is my usage in my family of 9, and this is what my neighbors of 2
Yeah.
people are using, and it says, this is what your neighbors are doing, and this is what you're doing. What?
Failure.
I run around the house, but could we do something very similar where it says, this is what we were using in
Yeah.
2011,
I think that's, so John
and
John
this
does
is
that graph
what
that
we're
I-
using now?
the graph that I send out to you every month that John prepares.
Yes.
I think what we could do, he last year, he added the state recommended amount to show that we were way above that. We could add, so this is what we used to use when it was part of the culinary, which is even lower than that.
But if it was like that graphic of, your house in 2011 and your house in 2014.
A suggestion, how about if we make an assignment? Can we ask Diana and Cindy to work on that with the staff, to work on the flyer thing that goes into the door hanger? And Sid, can you work with staff on the video? And then we'll direct staff to go ahead and do the purchase of the 50%.
And if it's okay, we'll use the beautification.
And the beautification commission, right? Right.
Meld that, work with them, yeah, that'd be good.
There you go. So we've got almost everything. You check the legal language. Okay, was there anything else, John?
I only had a couple more slides, but they're not, I think they're nice to see, but not critical. And we'll start going the system April 15th, already mentioned, full service on first. Initial early spring flows are minimal. Right now, there's nothing there. And so we have an area of town in the upper Battle Creek where that's the only source is Battle Creek water. And when we start getting runoff, which are, if we're gonna get any runoff, I don't know, it's gonna be limited in that upper area. So the city is getting those, last year they rented some booster pumps to try and help supplement up there. They're gonna do that right off, get it started, right initially, so that we can, get water into those zones.
Okay, John, I don't understand what that means.
The,
What's a booster pump and, sorry,
the,
because I know the game has started, so.
Okay.
This upper area of town, its only source of supply is Battle Creek.
Okay.
And so if there's no water coming out of Battle Creek, these folks don't have any water to start off. There's no tank to supply them either. It is literally what's coming down the creek gets diverted in. That's it. And so last year we rented a booster pump that's down here by the Monson tanks. And what it does is it pumps water from the lower side where we do have water from the Provo River. It pumps it up to the upper side.
Okay. I understood that. I knew that was something I didn't know that was helpful.
And so I just want to put a plug in here for that booster pump is going gonna cost about $10,000 a month to pump and that's just the cost of, we don't have the water up there, that was what we need to do to get the water up. We have in our long-range plan to put a tank and a permanent booster pump there at that location, but don't have the funding for it.
Is that Walker?
Walker, yes, Walker Ridge tank. The tank and the booster pump all together is gonna cost about $2 million.
I'm still waiting for my good news. I haven't heard yet. Yeah, and I mean, going back really quick to the renting of the water, if we don't rent any, is that gonna send a message that we don't, that we have plenty of water and you can use as much as we want? Because the last 2 years we've been in a drought situation, so use as much as you want because it won't matter. So, I think that.
You could one sort of use the water situation, or you're gonna use the water situation
Whether we have water or not.
personally.
Can we get a copy of your presentation on the website?
Yes.
Who do you rent a booster pump from?
Last year was Baker,
What?
Baker. This year, maybe somebody different, but to go check on something.
And that's all I have for this particular presentation. Any more questions?
Get out.
Thank you. Happy.
I'm just kidding.
You know what,
That was good.
thank you for always explaining it to the point where I can almost understand.
Anytime you want to call and get questions, let me know.
You've been so good, thank
So,
you.
Diana saves the rest of us from asking those questions. We appreciate it. Okay, let's move to item number 10A. These are action items that have public discussion. So it's a public hearing to consider for adoption ordinance 215-7, amending Title 8, Utilities, Chapter 4, Sewer System, Article 8, Sewer System Regulations to require conformance of design and standards with Utah Administrative Code and providing for an effective date.
So this is, as John mentioned earlier, just kind of a housekeeping, I believe. We were in full agreement with the state recommended. We're just adding the text to the code, as you can see in the ordinance, to add paragraph 3, which states sanitary sewer facilities in Pleasant Grove City shall be properly designed and constructed according to R 317-3 of the Utah State Administrative Code, section of code that covers sewers.
Any questions? Fairly straightforward. It's the one we read. Okay, it's a public hearing. Does anyone want to speak on that? Okay, seeing none, we'll bring it back up here. Any further discussion? Call for a motion.
I make a motion to adopt ordinance 2015-7, amending Title 8 Utilities, Chapter 4, Sewer System, Article 8, Sewer System Regulations to require conformance of design and construction standards with Utah Administrative Code and providing for an effective date.
Okay, we have a motion by Sid and a second by Ben. By voice, Diana,
Yes.
Yes.
Sid,
Yes.
Jay,
Yes.
Ben.
Yes.
Motion carries. All right, we're gonna move to item 11. No action on these items. Item 11A has an asterisk next to it. It says discussion on the water management and conservation plan.
The first agenda I said that out. Versus the resolution. But getting with you and looking at the color is to be fair on the so tonight was just a discussion and then a third action.
Okay. Dagan?
John.
John.
I feel like I'm dominating the meeting here.
Okay.
Water conservation and management plan. This is another one of those things from the state. You're required to have a water management and conservation plan that's updated every 5 years. And so this is the latest installment. The water management and conservation plan is fairly brief overview of the city and their water use, where they're going, what their goals are for conservation in the future. And so we'll just go over this as quickly as I can. There's an intro, there's a description of the city and its water system.
Who wrote that, you know?
That just came out of our history.
I think that's came out of history, and we can change whatever
They
you
said
want.
there were very few white men who entered Utah Valley. Didn't know if that was politically correct or.
We can completely change that.
I'll go for it. But there were very few that had come into the mountains. Like I'm just wondering. White women, yes, I want white women included as well.
And I'm happy to include whatever.
Just women in general.
So there's an intro, there's a description of the city and its water system, inventory of water resources, where your sources come from. Talk about water rights and other things. And here's where I want to start and talk about some details. In 2000, the year 2000, the governor set a goal of conserving, was it 20% of our water use in the state? And that's when this whole process of water conservation plan requirement was instituted. And at the time, Pleasant Grove City was using about 255 gallons of water per capita per day, per person per day. And this compared to an average of 293 in the state and Utah County at 273. So we were doing much better than the state and the county at that time. Total water use in Pleasant Grove City in 2014 was 248. So we went from 255 down to 248, a full 7 gallons of water per day. Okay. And this is compared to a statewide average of 242 and Utah Lake of 221, or Utah County 221. So now we're higher than our folks around us. Talking about that water bill coming to our house, and now we're high side of things. I think just drop down here, I think we didn't measure indoor and outdoor separately originally, and we started to measure pretty good in 2008. From that time, we have dropped our culinary usage, our indoor usage for 32%. Done really good on culinary, and we raised our outdoor by 37%.
Compared to when?
2008. So it says we're doing really good on culinary, not so good on secondary. And I think we recognize from all of our numbers we've already seen.
When did we implement secondary?
It started 12 years ago. 12 years ago? That's what, 2002? Roughly?
And if we wouldn't finish,
Yeah, when did we finish?
2008 or 9?
Yep. And it's still not finished.
So it's kind of drop is the shift from culinary to secondary.
Some of it is the switch. But in 2008, we had the majority of the secondary system in place when we took it. And that might continue if we can get some more and more of our users off of the culinary system onto the secondary system. But I think we already understand the high usage of our secondary system. It's just a graph of production compared to average in 2014. Let's see, talking about the types of connections and talking about our population projections. And I think the city's goal of reducing secondary water usage by, 25% in 5 years. I've set a goal of 25% in 5 years. And later on, we'll read where we have a long-term goal of 50%. That's to get down to our 4 gallons per minute per person, per acre. So 5 years, 20%, that equals 1.23 million gallons per day, enough water to meet the city's projected growth through 2028. That amount of conservation will meet our growth needs for a while. The next part of the plan shows, here's a comparison. In 2009, we identified various problems. And in this report, I talked about how we address those problems. And so we have 3 or 4 problems here to address them. Meter accuracy, we needed some meters on our sources of supply, and we think we've addressed Culinary water used for irrigation, we're trying to move as much usage from the culinary system to the irrigation as we can if it's outdoor usage. That helps us conserve our good high quality culinary water. Leakage within the water system, there's always leaks. As pipes age, they break, systems leak. So we're implementing leak detection program, repairs and so forth. And high use of unmetered secondary water, that's probably the biggest problem.
These were problems identified in 2009.
Yes.
Have we done any progress?
And that's what this talks about is what progress we've had. I would say on the unmetered secondary use, we've had limited progress. On the others, I think we've had some good progress on these others, but unmetered, over the last couple of years, we've seen a little bit of it. And we've been tough on restrictions and enforcement, and we've done a little bit, but we're not where we probably ought to be. The problems that I've identified going forward with the Public Works Department, leakage within the water system. We still have that problem. We've got an aging system that the system are falling apart, and we're getting some heavy leakage. Unmetered use of culinary water by the city. In years past, we haven't felt like we needed to meter city facilities. You know, it's a city where we don't write out a check to the department for the city hall. But I think we need to, as a city, start putting in meters so that the city knows what they're using on their property compared to everybody else. You know, how can we conserve as a city as well?
So is there any city facilities that are metered right now? None?
Couple.
Oh, a couple?
Didn't we just have that franchise tag
Well, we need to
conversation?
talk about that more, but yeah, so that's a separate issue, even though
For
we're
a
not
different
meters, we
reason.
need to we're having to put together an estimate so we can allocate that charge. And yeah, that's what we talked about.
And the last one is the same, high use. Those are the three main problems that we've identified at this point. Now, if there's more problems that you want to identify and add to the plan, this is the city's plan. I'm happy to take suggestions on this.
I have one question. Maybe not a suggestion, but do we have any estimate of how many are larger than 1 acre? We have a maximum size that we charge for secondary water, right? I think 1 acre plus has a flat fee. Do we have any idea what percentage of our secondary water is going to properties that are greater than 1 acre?
We don't have meters, it's hard to tell.
Well, you're talking about the percentage of water used or the percentage of acre, or the percentage of lots that are that acre?
Yeah, percentage of lots. So something we want to be able to figure out.
We could figure that out.
We have that number somewhere.
Yeah, I'm curious.
Because we did a study 3 years ago where we broke down every single lot. So we're trying to restructure the secondary water rates. We kind of kept them what they were in the process of doing that. As to how many lots we have that are over an acre.
Yeah, I'd love to see that.
Water conservation goals. In 2009, we set various goals, and those are listed here. In the bold, I've stated what we've done in the past 5 years to meet those goals. Now, our goal, 2009, was to decrease our use by 15%. We didn't reach that. We brought it down by about 3%. The culinary dropped really good, but the secondary was way up. Goal number 2 was drill new wells and rehabilitate old ones to meet current and projected culinary water needs. I feel really good about the culinary system at this point. We have all of the culinary system sources we need right now. Now, as long as our water levels in the aquifer don't drop too much, we always have to think about that. But barring that, I think we have the sources that we need. In the future, as we grow, we may need to get more sources will be identified in the master plan. Goal number 3, repair and upgrade water meters, and we've implemented that goal. Goal number 4 is maintain existing physical leak detection program. And they've implemented a detection program almost every year since then, and they 2 years. But they're continuing that program to try and find leaks and fix those as we can. And goal number 5 is install secondary water meters when technology is adequate and implement a conservation-based secondary water rate. Of course, that goal has not been met. And I think that one of the reasons, well, the main reason is obviously money to implement it. But another reason was finding a suitable meter that we felt like would work for secondary water. And Greg and the Public Works Department think they have a meter identified that will work. And love to put it in as soon as budgets allow. Following goals have been set for this plan. Reduce the city's per capita secondary water use by 25% in 5 years and 50% in 10 years. Okay. Now that 50% is based on our previous discussion about bringing our water use to 4 gallons per minute per acre. Goal number 2 is maintain existing physical leak detection program. I think something that's very doable. Goal number 3, install secondary water meters when technology is adequately tested and implement a conservation-based secondary water rate structure. Budget and plan for eventual water meter installation on the secondary irrigation system. I've listed them. Goal number 4, install culinary meters in all city-owned facilities, better track city conservation efforts, and better quantify how much water is lost through leaks and lost. I do kind of an audit on the system every year. I know what all the meters read, all the individual meters. I get that information from Scott, and I know what our master meters read, what comes into the system, what is metered out of the system, and they're not the same. There's always a difference, and I track that every year. How much difference is that? But that aren't metered, that are legitimate uses, and so getting meters on all the facilities will help better quantify what's lost through leakage.
John,
Yes.
what is typical, and what would be expected?
Yeah. I've seen studies across the United States, mature older system, you lose upwards of 20% of your water through leakage. And your numbers show anywhere from 20 to 30 to 35% difference between the metered in and metered out. Some of that is legitimate uses, but goal number 5 is continue water line replacement program to replace leaking lines. Now, the master plan, your water master plan calls for investing in replacement infrastructure as it ages. We need to continue with that. We've got a water line we're going to be doing this summer that it's just falling apart. It's almost all patches. There's not much pipe left, all patches. So we're doing as much as we can, but I think we're not keeping up with it. We're getting more and more leakage all the time. This just identifies our next section, conservation practices, conservation rate structure on the culinary, watering schedules, water education programs, leak detection program. Just some of the things that we're working on right now. Plan shows the current rates and talks about having additional measures if necessary. Now, I am anxious to receive all your feedback. Anything that can add to and strengthen this program, I think would be very good. And at this point, I think I'll open it up for questions. But other than that, if you could get information back to me in the next, I don't know, week or so, and then we can get it on for the next, for the public hearing in a couple weeks. March 31st.
How much is a meter?
It's
$236.
but it's
That'd
more
be
than-
the same for the city size.
that's just the meter. Then you have to have the box and everything and going and installing it and all the efforts. And I think we were estimating about what, $500, a little higher than that. About $600 per meter to go ahead and add meters to the secondary.
What about the city facilities? Talk specifically.
Similar, it would be a similar cost.
Some of them already have the meters in them, we've just not used them. Some of them we've actually taken out in years past, we'll have to replace them.
Why were they taken out, do you know?
We never metered them, so there was another need. So, at that time.
I think we should start.
Yeah, I think the city usage should start to be, if we want to encourage conservation and identify leak, for us, we need to measure the whole system. We're a big water user, so. I have a question for you. I don't know the number of your pages, but you talked about the 2009 water conservation goals. And goal number 1 with the report, it was to reduce 15% in 5 years. And then the note was total water use over the 5 years increased 3.5.
I believe you've got an old copy.
Okay.
When I first originally put that together, that was for, I had the water data for 2013 and I didn't have it for 2014. When I plugged in the 2014 numbers, we actually brought it down.
Okay, so let me see if it still applies the question. So if it decreased by 2.7, the goal was to decrease it by 15. The new goal is to decrease it by 25 over 5 years.
Yes,
It seems like a ramp.
it is. And if you look at your secondary water usage 5 years ago, we've increased that by 37%. So, and another thing to recognize, the goal to reduce the use by 25% in 5 years, that's on the secondary only. Okay, in 2009, the total goal was 15% across culinary and secondary.
Okay, that helps.
And the goal now is 25% on the secondary.
So the overall was 15 and the overall net was 2.7.
Yes.
But the culinary dropped significantly.
Yeah, the 13% decline in culinary, amazing. If we just look at culinary, we'd be good or better than our neighbors, right? It's the secondary.
Yes.
So do we still have a lot of citizens that are still using culinary? So everybody at East of the Canal is still using culinary on their lawns.
Everything west of state.
Everything west of state is still using culinary.
West of state
Well,
and
in
the
the
north.
north-
If you go to Manila,
The canal,
north of
Manila,
north of the canal. Yes.
say east.
You said east.
Sorry.
East of the canal up on the bench here is on secondary.
Pumped,
Yes.
and then I have, okay.
So, and why was the drop in culinary that significant?
Well, good question, and some of it is moving from culinary to the secondary. But there's a large portion that reflects many years of new plumbing standards, overflow toilets, better efficiency, better education, yes.
The double flush.
Yes.
So if the city completed the system, strike that. If the city completed the installation of the secondary in 2008, 2009, that doesn't mean that everybody had converted over to using that. So there could be some latent conversion to the secondary system. And that might account for quite a bit of decrease in the quality.
It might be, but I don't know if we want to pull it up now, but I've watched and I tracked the sewer system as well, all the flows that go down the Timpanogos Special Service. And those flows per capita have been dropping over the past 20 years quite significantly. So that's truly indoor conservation. It doesn't have a component of outdoor with it. But so we have been doing better.
Could be like infiltration.
Yeah, let's figure out images.
Okay, so this was discussion only tonight. So I take it if we take some time to ponder this, get our comments in, 2 weeks, and then you'll come back with, is it a resolution or
We'll do an ordinance.
an ordinance? Okay.
We'll email out, obviously, to get Kathy the revised version, so I'll get you the correct version that we've been going from.
And I think one conservation effort we did last year, which I thought I could send to the city, but I don't know if we can have our waterfalls and ponds, like our aesthetic, we had the sign that says water all conserved. Thought that was a good example of showing that we're going to work off our features like that. You saw those signs?
I can't hear you, sorry.
Big serious? Or did you say to me out?
Somebody told me to turn the air on.
I know that was me, thank you. These signs from last year says water off conserved. Did you get any response on that?
Not an awful lot. We did more when we were out doing maintenance in the park and those types of things, but as far as the water features, we really did get a lot of comments.
But no news is good news, unless you're John. And you can present it and then it's all bad news. And it's you, we really appreciate you.
Well, even if people don't comment, they're noticing.
Yeah, it was.
I think you're right. It's a good idea to lead by example before you ask them. Okay, thank you. Thanks.
Now get out. You're playing roles in water, that's like, that's
All right.
Just do your job, though.
Item 11B is a discussion to remove battery tank PRV capital project and replace it with upgraded water meter system capital project.
Just wanted to talk about this project. There's been a little information. We'll talk a little bit more too that will carry into the future meeting. The main item was that we've had this item as a capital project, and it's carried forward for the past 2 or 3 years to replace the PRV, the pressure reducing valve, mouth of Battle Creek Canyon, and we have a lot of water people here, so if I say something stupid, they can correct me. But, that's been out there for a while. It's need to have been done. It's just old and something to do with the chlorine that's in there. It's just something that needs to be replaced. With the micro hydro blue energy project that we've been talking about for several years to try to do that, building would replace the need for that. So we wouldn't need to do that $70,000 project. And this is something that really technically isn't a budget amendment because we're not spending more, but discussing it, that would be good to discuss with the council before we change out one capital project. So if the need is not there to do that PRV replacement, there is a need in the water department to move to the next generation of meters. And again, if I'm saying this wrong, we can make it correct. The meters that we're using right now are kind of the old technology that and we just kind of hung on to that for a while. But it's time for us to get started with the new, I don't even know if generation is the right that, but it's just new technology, radio read kind of meter. We'd like to start putting those meters in. In order to do that, we need a new base unit, computer type of a thing. And so this $60,000 would buy that base unit and give us, I think, 250 meters regardless of what's out there. The first thing is to get some input from the council to see if there's any objections to that.
These are culinary meters?
Yes. And then, now the other issues that's out there, the Blue Energy project, we've received the bids back from those. They're a bit higher than we were anticipating. So we're going to meet actually tomorrow and discuss what the next step on that is, because there's things they can do to reduce the cost a little bit. I don't even have all that information. Corey did some of it there. Some of that. So, anyways, I guess first of all, is there any objection or concern that anyone would have relating to if we don't do the PRV project? This other project?
So the culinary meters that go on consumer homes, and did we say earlier that it was $500 a piece?
That was to replace one for the secondary, if you took into consideration everything, putting in the box, but. and retrofit.
This
These-
is the sound
these-
right.
These are for culinary, and so this is basically taking the system we're on now is an R read. And everything in that is getting outdated to where we can't get batteries for them. And so this would replace that system with the newer updated system. But, and of course, you know, you can't read the, R's with the M, or no, you can't read the M's with the R unit. They have to buy the whole new unit. But that-
Even
that'll
if
give
we'll
us a
work
head
for the old
start.
meters too, right? We'll read
Yes,
the old meters
this
still.
will read both. So,
Do people have to drive around and do the?
yeah, we're still doing that on a lot of them. This will entail to whether in the future, if we actually go with the tower, or we have the internet system now, or the cell towers, or everything, it'll actually retrofit to that.
Ideally,
It'll kind of save us money in the long run if we do it now and start until we have to do.
Where are they?
In all the new homes. So all the new homes that are putting them in, we'll start putting them in. The 250 are in the area that is read by radio reach. So
are we replacing meters or we're just gonna put as new?
we'll just put them in as
As the need
new
for
as
new
they're
meters
coming in, and they're paying for them anyway. They'll just get the brand new system. So,
So it's not going out and replacing other meters, it's just us.
We're just using these for future.
Yeah.
yeah. So basically,
So
if say
anything
your
that's in
meter,
the structure.
yeah, if your meter was to quit working and we could replace it, we could put this new one in and it would retrofit. So,
So Steve, you made it sound like the Travel Creek PRB is no longer necessary on account of the blue energy.
Yeah, assuming you
Sure
go ahead
about
and, well, okay, we have engineers and water people here, but as I understand it, so you have, you want to explain that?
He couldn't stand being the, he couldn't let Dean just wallow.
I don't want the engineer.
The water that we get out of Battle Creek Canyon, or Culinary Springs, comes down a pipeline all the way to the canyon. And right at the mouth of the canyon, we have the 2 tanks in. There is a pressure reducing station right there before the tanks. In other words, we've got higher pressure in these lines coming down from the canyon. We need to break the pressure so that it'll flow into the tanks and not shoot out the top of the tank. Maybe maybe an exaggeration, but that said, we need to break that pressure so the water can flow into the tanks and be fine. Those PRBs are in dire need of maintenance. And they're down in a room where there's chlorine and they get corroded and other things. And we've known this for several years, and that's why we've had the budget to maintain those PRB valves. Well, with the Blue Energy project coming in, rather than breaking the pressure in that PRB station, they're going to collect that pressure and that energy and use it in a turbine to break the pressure. And then it'll just run into the tank. So the Blue Energy, if you go ahead and go with it, will replace the PRB structure.
That blue energy is laying out price at the moment, and we're negotiating with them.
Yeah, we're gonna have to, we'll come back here in a week or two.
So the question on the table, is the council okay with switching out one capital project from the PRB of the Battle Creek, deleting that one, and instead using the money for this new core system plus the 250,000, approximately 60 grand.
I guess the only risk is that with blue energy, we still desperately need PRV, right?
Right, and we'll know that, like I said, within the next couple of weeks. And if we don't do this now, then do it. Project and separate process.
Aren't the water meters paid for as far as impact fees?
Yeah.
Right. So why would we need to buy something? New homeowner is buying it anyway.
Because then we're to replace the ones that the new homeowner bought the old one. And that one's working, we're gonna replace it for them.
So at least it'd be more to replace
ones that are not working.
Yeah.
So the ones that aren't working now that are, you know, the battery's gone dead and we can't get them for the 250. Right.
Isn't this mostly to buy the unit and they're kind of
It was a
throwing in?
package.
Yes, they're throwing in, yeah, they're actually
It's just
throwing in the
kind of a starter
250
kit.
meters. It's like a
Get
skip.
it going.
Because it's actually a lot more.
We're buying the computer and the readers, that's what we really need.
Yeah.
It comes with 250 meters too.
Start. Concerns, Jay? Anyone? Discussion? Sounds like we're. Okay, next week we have a joint city council planning commission. Okay, order resolutions on the more agenda open session, special access departments.
Okay, I've got, as promised, a packet of information, so I'm going to distribute that. I just, last time we had our joint meeting with the commission, they requested that they have input on the agenda. We did email them and ask if there's anything we wanted on it. So we knew that the accessory apartment discussion was in there. That will be our practice moving forward, is to make sure they have. Okay, I'll do a brief overview of what this is all about. It was intended that this packet would also contain all of the exhibits that I have been able to find on accessory apartments that include documents, proposed ordinances, minutes, all types of things. But to let you see what I came up with, this is the exhibits right here. So unfortunately, they don't fit in this small little binder. So anyway, also to save trees, I thought maybe we could just send you by email a copy of these exhibits. This is everything that would be back up, that you're not necessarily going to want to look at it all. But there's a list of what these exhibits are in your packet in case you want to see what it's all about. So I'll just reference a couple things here. The number one is a summary of what the packet is all about. It's the overall comments that I think are pertinent to look at. Section number one summary, and also my opinion there of what we need to do. Number two is history of accessory apartment issues going back to 1951. This is when the first zoning ordinance was adopted. Between 51 and 78, there would have been, sorry, not 70, 85. 51 to 85, and previous to 51, there wasn't any regulation. So we go back to when the town was originally established in 1853, I believe it was, to 1985. There were opportunities for accessory apartments to be constructed. Yes, it would be anything that's identified as being constructed prior to 1985 would be considered grandfathered. Yeah, there's a lot. And so then when we get up to between 1985 and 2000, there's not a lot going on. But in 2000 is when we started talking again about the need for having some legal method for accessory apartments. And you'll see several of these ordinances were proposed since 2000. So the last 15 years, we've had this effort on and on, ongoing. Then section 3 is a list of the exhibits that I will be sending to you by mail. So they're just kind of let you know what type of things we have there. Number 4 was supposed to be actual exhibits, so that will be the email. Number 5 is just a list of other ordinances that we have received that I'm not going to send, but in case you're interested, I have copies in my office.
But you kind of, that's how what helped you provide knows where we are.
Right, and these are things that have been collected either since I've been here or others that have been on file that were collected previously.
It's not necessarily in the last 6 months, but we did this over
Right.
years.
And then number 6 is a historical city code. So
what has been permitted here in Pleasant Grove since 1951. And as I mentioned, between 51 and 1985, they were able to be permitted. And this section 7 is what is currently permitted in our. So there are situations that are permissible in 3 different zones for accessory apartments: in the Grove Mixed Housing Sub-District, in the RM7 zone, and in the downtown village. Accessory apartments are currently permissible. And then these are other related type situations being shown here, what's permitted and what's not. Then the section 8 is 15 frequently asked questions on accessory apartments. We tried to come up with everything we could think of that might be a question related to accessory apartments, and trying to answer those to the best of our ability. And then number 9, this is research done by Royce Davies, various sources, just pulling down various points to be considered. So in the end, I just want to say that I think it's time for us to move and do something on this issue. We have been discussing, viewing, considering, talking about ad nauseum for 15 years, this issue. I think it's time to do something about it. Well, but we actually did permit it. And so I guess what I'm saying is, with that recommendation, is accessory apartments are not going away. The issue is not going away. It's more responsible for us to actually come up with a way to recognize and permit them.
This is what you did right here. Good job.
You
Thank
did.
you. This is good notes.
And was there anything in this last legislative session that impacted this?
I think so. This is our learning.
Well, it's a report, yeah. It's really fortunate that we have your many years of expertise on this issue. I mean, you really are the right man to guide us on this issue.
And right now, the rest is template on this agenda for next week.
Yes. This will be really our only item.
All right.
Unless something else comes up.
So we go to neighborhood and staff business. Libby? Okay, how are we coming on the applications? We looked at them.
We received applications.
Did we get them to the 2 out of town? Okay. 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 Anything else, Libby? Do you think the application squared them away? Ken? Dave? Nothing. You? Nothing. Lynn? Dave? Mike? Nothing. Sherry?
We have an after-school activities program for elementary age kids tomorrow, I believe. My phone died, I can't look at it. We also have a kid history program that Melissa Carvajal's been teaching that's been super successful and popular. She's doing mythology right now. That's this week. We also have
everything.
She does.
Greek
We also have,
mythology.
yeah. And she homeschooled all of her kids, and they've done very well in school, in all of the exams and everything.
And that starts tomorrow?
Actually, it's been an ongoing program that we could come anytime. She did Egypt before that. And then we also have a teen night on Friday night. We have on Thursday night, we have the, Scott Savage is a very popular author. And he's coming to do the writer series, teaching how to write. So he'll be here on Thursday. And the orchestra has a concert on Friday, right?
Yeah, I get that. No,
7
that's-
o'clock.
Yeah, that's why I was looking at you. And I'm probably missing something. Well, there's the ongoing kids programs too.
So Sherry, you said it was after school tomorrow, or is it Thursday?
Actually, it's Thursday.
Okay,
Kid history is
Thursday,
tomorrow.
4:30, okay. Okay.
And I did do my interview later.
How did that go?
I felt like it went pretty well. There were about 8 mayors there who conducted the interview.
Oh, really?
Uh-huh.
What will you know?
They said they'll give us the rankings on all of the different applicants in first week of April, so
Oh,
a couple
cool.
weeks.
Thanks, Sherry.
Yeah. The only question I couldn't answer is they said, what if it's more than what you're asking for? Will your city pay it? And I said, I can't speak for the city council, but they've been
Got some
supportive,
budget for
so.
that, so, yeah. Thank you, Sherry. Dean? Scott?
You've been checking your phones, no spoilers.
I don't know what you're talking about.
That's it.
Tina? Daniel? All right. Kathy? Jay? Nothing?
Why don't you guys stop
Sure.
sharing something?
Okay. Okay.
I explained the beard, I'm good.
Say,
I'm not gonna explain my beard, but,
you don't.
Okay, thank you. So, Kathy and I sat down with Kent, Bowen, who was our web guide, based on some citizen response, and now to make things more transparent, we now have the meeting minutes, the newsletter, agendas, everything is right on the front and center of the whole page. So it's line, one click, the organize it, it's a lot better. But one thing we're looking at is the sliders, and we want to have a welcome to Pleasant Grove slider, so if you're new to the area, you just click on the website, welcome to Pleasant Grove.
What's the slide?
It's like right here, you can click through like Magnolia, you can watch it go on its own. But I thought it'd be fun to have a contest and have residents submit their best photo of Pleasant Grove, I don't know who the judges would be, and then let the residents, and it can something we change out monthly or every couple months on that slider. Is the council open to doing that? Okay. I'll work on that, and what was the other thing? I told the scout, he emailed me for one of his projects and wanted to know how much a bubble would cost in the pool. I know that other citizens are interested in well as well. Well,
That was a worthy goal.
he just had a plan issue in the city that information on. But I know other citizens are interested in well that cost and as well. And the last time we checked, it was I think several years ago that we got an estimate. Would it be possible to get an updated estimate on a bubble or a pool? Okay, thanks. And I think that's all.
Okay, the wedding went well. Just in case anybody's asking. My wife's back to normal, sort of. She's less pressure, and it's great. Life's good.
There is a postpartum wedding reception time period that you just have to.
I've noticed she went to the doctor today. She was down. It's great. Life's good right now.
It's like the post-Christmas chaos and then.
It really was good, and I appreciate everybody that came. That was wonderful. Good experience. Any plats? Nothing.
So I have one thing really quick. Since where are we at with the going paperless?
Yeah, we met with Express Bill Pay to talk about enrolling citizens right when they come in to sign up. They're putting together an application form for us. They have one other city that does that, and they're working on that for us.
And then, so that's as far as the Express Bill Pay, but see, I mark, okay, that's one outside of the resident comes in. So I marked back in January, I was out there at Retriever speaking, talking about it, I'm there, I didn't want to newsletter, I'm still getting the newsletter, I'm still getting my bill, my envelope, everything.
We're working with them on that as well.
Okay.
So there's the system default is to send that all to you. We're going to change the system default to not send that to you, but you actually have to hit the
But
check.
that's what I did, I went and changed it.
Then we need to follow up.
Did the same thing after the
Yeah.
discussion,
Are you still
like,
getting it?
like recently after, and I'm still getting it.
I mean, that's just money that the city's just throwing out,
Uh-huh.
so. We're meeting
We,
with them.
yeah, we met with Elkie a couple of weeks ago and talked through those issues, but sounds like we're not getting the results.
So is it Express Bill or is it?
Yeah, they're the ones who send it.
Is that the only company? Do we something that we can look at?
No, there might be some other companies that do that, but, they're the ones that are most compatible with our, financial software. I think we can get where we need to go, but we're just,
Just don't know.
we're just working on it.
If we're just getting their thoughts on it versus maybe looking at somebody new.
I would hope we can resolve everything with them and not have to change all that out. That would,
Okay.
we'd have to change out every citizen that currently enrolled and start all over in that process.
Oh,
So can we, is there like a date that we could follow up on that? April
I mean, we'd have to
1st?
talk and see what their timeline is as far as that's concerned.
Well,
They
it's
know more
either
urgency.
they can fix it or they can't, I would think. I mean, they either, people, they don't want the newsletter, because right now, all the paper is like $72,000 a year that the city's putting out. So it means like, if we ask them, if people are marking on that, it's just computer, whatever they need to do, I don't know, I just. And then I thought as far as the newsletter, we're working on a plan to send out to residents to say, we're going paperless, it's costing this much per year, everything's now online. Where are we at with the newsletter, the city side of things, is going paperless, because there's the express bill pay issue, and there's also the newsletter issue.
Well, so the express bill pay needs to be solved first, because that's how, the utility bill is where the newsletter comes in. So we need to get all that resolved first, and then we can work on those that still want the newsletter. Is that what you're asking?
Yeah. I'm just thinking, I mean, I talked to Councilmember Linden, who, they just did this in the last, went through their budget, found cuts that they can make, and one was, they just sent a notice out that said, we're not going online with our newsletter. And they still have some hard copies available in different locations around the city, but and that's just a huge cost to send out the newsletter.
Yeah.
So I'm just going around the process.
Yeah, I guess, maybe I don't remember that direction, but if the direction is we don't want to send it out anymore.
No, I think the direction we left was there's still some people that need their paper. But by and large, we wanted to get rid of all the ones that just go into the, check the box, and then we didn't receive it anymore, and we did, and we still get it. So the question is, anybody who checked that box is no longer going to receive a paper copy of the newsletter or the bill, is that right? The bill too?
That's correct, but then even teaching it set friend and just almost eliminating the newsletter. I know people still
Except for those
receive it,
that need it.
except for those that need it, and that's where we have hard copies available, or if they really wanted it. Yeah, so I'm even going like a step further, so the first step right there, then the second step is eliminating it, because people who aren't on Express. So people who aren't on Express Bill Pay, are they still getting the newsletter and bill each month?
Yes, if they're not an express bill pay, they get sent a paper copy of the bill.
Okay, so that's the other thing to push is getting them go online to do Express Bill Pay. I don't know, there's just more to it, but I just want to know.
Oh, no, we've talked about that.
Bill Pay and I still do paper one.
Well, no, that's, apparently we have a trend.
Well, and to back Sid up, I have no intention of using Express Bill Pay, but I would love to get my statement and my newsletter electronically.
Yeah, me too.
So we understand there's some narrative issues and we're working on those. I can't give you dates that we'd have to, they're the ones that would have to tell us when they can come in. We did talk to them about it when we met with them a couple of weeks ago. And if it hasn't been resolved, then we need to recontact them and say, we're just not getting this.
So maybe an assignment, someone be able to contact them this week and give us an update.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Mom.
Thanks for that. Okay, I didn't see anything on the calendar that was out of the normal meeting schedules. Motion to adjourn,
Motion to adjourn.
all in favor?
Aye.